everybody. Once again, I'm Liam McCracken Jr., aka Zorach on Less Than Guru, and I just want to do an update. So, yes, if you've been looking at the channel, you can see that I'm doing like an update every single day. A couple of days, I've spent an hour or two just making a bunch of videos and then scheduling them for release. So that was exciting to do. I had never really done that before in my official capacity on the Torg Eternity Delphi Council debriefings. I schedule, I record, I put together, and then I schedule them for release. So I decided, hey, I could, instead of making one and then releasing it, making another one, release it, I could do it all and just spend a few hours here and there and give updates. So I understand I don't edit is one, I don't have time, and I ramble and I don't have a script and things like that, but I am making those videos a lot shorter. A lot of them are between 5 and 15 minutes. They're focused mainly on one topic, so even if I do ramble a little bit, they're a lot more concise, and I've seen a lot more views. So I do thank you for watching these videos. I think it might be helpful. So that's what I want. I want this information out there, not necessarily so everybody uses it, but everybody can think about it, because it might not be something that is useful for your game, but it might make you think of something that's better for your game, or give you a reason of, this is why I am keeping the rules as written, or the normal rules, because I've heard the alternates and I want to stick with what's written. So that's fine. All of that's fine. I'm glad people are watching, making comments, etc. That's the purpose of this channel, is just to learn about stuff that's not necessarily Dungeons and Dragons. Palladium First Edition is something that I really love. It's every other Sunday I Game Master. I have a whole thing of that I rewrote the rules, etc. And again, I took away that playlist because those were very, very long, hour-long videos, and breaking it up into chunks seems to be helping. So that's why I do that. So that's what's going on with Palladium. We have a couple of plot lines going on, and it's really good. It also goes back to the video that I talked about having multiple player characters per player. They can only play one at a time, but it allows that when people can't miss and they're in the middle and they're important to that plot line, I can switch the plot line to something else, because I have a living world, if you will, that things are going on. If the players decide not to do it, there's still going to be a result of what's going on. They're just not the ones that are affecting that result until they determine that they need to. That gives player agency, that gives character agency, but it's not, the game is actually restrained completely by the players. And for an old school Palladium First Edition game, it's worked really well. So let me talk about another one of the games, Earthdawn. We're starting Earthdawn. Again, we've had a couple of adventures. In that one, the Game Master did something different, but instead of having the same place that the characters are in, the characters, he has like our higher level or higher circle party is around 5 and 6, and the other one we just had a few. I want to say we had 4 or 5 adventures. We haven't gone above circle 1. We're still starting, but we're doing Torg Eternity for a year, so we're getting back into the game. It was one that I really begged the Game Master, please don't end the game, because I really love this game. If you're burnt out, let me take over, and then you can get back into it, and that's what we're doing. So easing back into the system is proving beneficial, so we had a lot of fun with that. A couple of sessions ago, we had a adventure that we didn't even have a fight. That was pretty interesting, and it worked very differently than how the Game Master had planned. In this last one, we had kind of a dream creature thing that was affecting anybody. That was really interesting, and we were able to bring out some role-playing as well as combat and stuff in that adventure. So that was actually really, really fun. But he also has it where if certain people don't show up, he has a fallback, the same players, but when everybody doesn't show up, there's a fallback plot to go to that's a little more loose and easier to come up with an adventure that might only have a few or a handful instead of the full committed group. So that works well. A couple of weeks ago, I posted our last Blades in the Dark, and while I really liked the system and was sad to see us not doing that system, it was a good end to the campaign, so I was happy with that. Almost destroyed the world, but the party beat my main character to not allow that. My character basically failed a roll, became a Game Master character, and went on a rampage. He wanted to end the world, but not quite like the spirit that possessed him did. But that was fun. And now we have an adventure in Lancers. Lancers is a game I never played, never really heard of before the Game Master wanted to do it. It's a mech game. And I still am very unaware of the rules. I do not have a core rule book. I do not have a PDF. It's basically there is an online site where you can build and update characters, as well as what is available. We're using Foundry VTT for that game. So basically it's just it's very much being kind of handed a character sheet and figuring out what's going on. We had a combat scenario, I guess you could say a practice combat, and some role-playing done, and that is linked here as Lancers number 1 in the Campaign 3 playlist. But we're learning, and I'll see how I like it or not. So far, it seems fine. That's basically what I'll say, because I haven't got into it enough to determine if I really like it, don't like it, or if it's normal, average. So we're doing that. And Torg Eternity, my Wednesday streaming, we are almost done with Revenge of the Keratin. Last week, a bunch of people, including myself, were sick or unavailable, so we did not stream that night, but we hope to stream this next night. And it might be the end of that, and then we'll be starting, I think Mark has a couple of acts of something he made, but eventually we will get into Unhallowed Data, and I have game mastered that with my home group. That was the last 2 Torg Eternity Mega Adventures ago that I did for my home group, and I'll be curious how a different game master does it, because I always change things, and I like to see how people who tend to stick more to the game, because that's through Torganized Play, and they don't like to do a lot of changes. I do a ton of changes, even if I've written the thing to fit my group, but I'm very interested on how that works. So that's what's going on with Torg Eternity. Another thing of sickness and being unavailable, the last maybe 2 sessions of our Sentinels game hasn't worked out, but that's a fun game. It's a fun superhero game. The only thing that's kind of a little off for me is no advancement per se. Advancement is more of a min-max or tweaking type aspect. You don't get like experience points or possibility. You don't get things to increase your character permanently. You get one-use bonuses, and then as you get a certain farness, a certain amount done, then you can change your character, swap out some things, swap in some new stuff, change it. So that's why I say advancement's more like a retro min-maxing. So that's interesting. But the game itself is actually pretty fun, and you can just come up with lots of stuff. Basically, if you can convince the game master that the skill or power or abilities that you have would work in a situation, they work. And it's very comic bookish when people are comic book characters are doing stuff that they didn't ever before, and they use their power, and you're like, well, I guess they can do that now. And that's kind of how we're doing that with Sentinels comics. So Mars came up to jump in my lap here. And so that's basically what's going on with me in the updates. I'm still doing Torg 1.5. I still got my Delphi Council debriefings most every Tuesday. Next week, we will be wrapping up social. So we had a part 1, part 2, and this is part 3 of the social. That's a pretty big perk category, but it's mostly available, except for a few perks, it's available to everybody. So that's fun, doing writing and line developing stuff behind the scenes for the 1.5 books. But other than that, I've been rolling along, and we'll see how things continue. And I am glad that I at least can drop some Palladium First Edition stuff every day, and it'll last at least for a couple of weeks. I did quite a few videos that are all already scheduled that are going to drop at midnight every day, so check those out. Other than that, I'm Lee McCrafton Jr., aka Zorvalchan Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.